name's Aaron Day from MakeCrazyDays.org. This is another video in the Spalted Firewood series. I was inspired by Larry Chalberg's pen box video and figured I would make one for the woman who sold me her firewood. If you'd like to see how, keep watching. I started with the pen box from where I left off after milling the log into boards. The inside surface of each the top and the bottom of the box were hand-planed smooth. I used the hand plane to limit the amount of material removed so I could keep as much of the grain matching as possible. This left two faces that match up nicely and the grain follows through the pieces. The hand plane face was placed downward on the thickness planer and the outer face was brought into parallel with the inner face. I also brought the thickness down to where I wanted. Both the top and the bottom were ripped to width. I wanted the line of spalting to run the length of the pen box near the middle. I set up a stop block on the miter sled for the length of the box. Then both the top and the bottom were cross-cut to length. A round nose bit in the router was used to create a dado for the pen. Stop blocks were clamped to the fence to prevent going past the length of the pen and blowing out the ends, and so that the length at both ends of the dado for the top and the bottom matched. It is best to start with small passes, no more than 1/8 of an inch, to keep control of the workpiece. This required several passes on both the top and the bottom to make enough space for the pen and the clip of the pen. Here, you can see the dados match up nicely within the box. The tooling is completed on the boxes and it's time to start sanding. I sanded all of the faces with sandpaper on a large sheet of glass to get a smooth and even surface. The dados were sanded with a bit of sandpaper rolled up into a tube. The ends were a bit of a pain, especially since there was a very little bit of burning. It was about this time I realized I had forgotten to turn the camera on when I chamfered the edges with the hand plane. Oops! I'm using John Peters' method here that he uses with shellac, though with lacquer. Instead of denatured alcohol, I'm using lacquer thinner with an old t-shirt in a separate jar. Then I've thinned out the jar of lacquer. The applicator soaked in the thinner is dipped into the lacquer and rubbed off on the edge of the jar. Then, all of the outer surfaces are rubbed with a very thin coat of lacquer. After the pieces have dried, an hour or so, I flip them over to get the inner surface. Because of the dado, I need to use a small disposable brush. I dip it into the thinner and then the lacquer and brush it into the dado as evenly as possible. Then I go back to the applicator and get the flat surfaces of the inside of the box. I like to get 4 to 8 applications of this rubbed on lacquer since it's so thin. I usually don't sand between coats except before the last with a high grit paper. I give the pieces 36 to 48 hours after the last coat of lacquer. Then I grab some 1500 grit sandpaper and wet sand all of the surfaces. Here I'm taping the box shut. I then place some tape where the hinges will go on the box. I measure in from the ends of the box so the hinges will be at the same distance from the edge. Those marks are then marked with a square over the length of the tape. The hinge is held into place and I'm pressing a divot into the locations of the holes for the mounting nails. Using a very fine drill bit with a tape flag for a depth stop, I'm pre-drilling for the nails. Realistically, the nails are going to have very little purchase in the wood, so I'm putting a bit of superglue on some tape. Then I dip the nail into the superglue using a pair of needle nose pliers and gently tap it home with a hammer. Here are a couple glamour shots of the finished box and the pen that will go with it. Not bad for something someone was going to heat their home with next winter. I hope you enjoyed the video and will find some inspiration to make your own. Thank you to Larry for the idea. I'll leave a link to his video. I would also like to thank the woman who allowed me to rummage through her firewood for the material for this video. Leave a comment below if you have any ideas or questions. Like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you'd like to see more, and also, God bless. Next, I will take 2 small boards to make a pen box for the person who sold me a couple pieces of their firewood. I already turned a pen last week.